I think we're alive. After a radical camera malfunction. um, we just had to install an entirely new camera. But it looks like it's working. Thank you for your patience. Thank God for my son. You have to know, I'm doing class from home this year because of the pandemic, and I don't have my team. So when I go live, there's no sound. When I go live and nothing works, I have my 13-year-old son who has to come in and help me in between his classes and tutoring. So I'm really sorry about that. Can you hear me? Can you hear me though? Can you see me and can you hear me? This is a new camera, new setup. In the last 15 minutes, we totally recreated this. Woo! You can hear me. Okay. So welcome to Crystal Masters for February. Oh my goodness. I have so much planned for you tonight, and I am so excited for tonight's class. I hope you are too. I'm going to take just a couple of minutes to let you know about a little bit of a shift in how we're doing class tonight based on feedback from you. So I want to give you this little perspective shift. As you know, I've been a teacher since I was 23. I taught my first college class at 23, which is really crazy. I had a PhD, and part of my fellowship, or a PhD fellowship, and part of it was teaching college classes to pay my tuition. So I've been in a classroom for half my life. And so I'm constantly trying to do better at teaching. And I got some feedback from you guys over the last couple of weeks, two things in particular that you wanted. One was you want us to start on time, and I actually was sitting here on time today and the camera didn't work, so I really apologize. Sometimes I'm 5 or 10 minutes late. I have a 11-year-old and a 13-year-old at home with the COVID pandemic, and they're doing online school. So during the day, sometimes I get kind of pulled in a bunch of different directions because I'm the only adult in the house. So I will do my best to start right on time for you guys. Totally hear it, totally see you, totally doing my best, which isn't always perfect. The other request is that classes stay to exactly 2 hours. People do not want class going over 2 hours. And people do not want me to answer questions during class. They would prefer that I do that at the end of class. So I'm going to try tonight to not address the feed until the end of our time together. And that'll be really interesting and different for me. But if it helps you feel more on track, if it helps you feel more organized, I'm here for you. And so my assumption has been more is more. You guys like the interaction during class, but I'm hearing from quite a number of you that you'd rather not have that. So thank you, Mercury retrograde, for a late start today. That was not planned. So I'm going to hold all questions, all engagement with the feed until the end. And we'll see how you do, how you like that better. It's a little different for me, but like I said, I'm here for you. I am not here for me. So whatever helps you learn better. And some of you just like things to be linear, and I totally get it. So I'm focusing on that today. So we're going to give it a go. And if you like it, great. This is how we'll do it going forward. And if you're like, no, I think I want you to engage with me more while we're going, then we can always go back and switch too. But people do not want classes going over time, and I totally understand. Your time is precious. I'll tell you something. My time's precious too. The evenings are really important with my kids. They're getting older by the minute, so I definitely don't want to go over time if it's not in service of your learning. So thank you for that. Okay, so we're not going to be distracted. You're going to see me more directed here. I won't be reading your comments, so just know, and maybe Alexis can, kind of moderate a little bit for me until we get to the Q&A section, and I'll do my best to answer as many questions as I can. I'm going to try to leave like the last 20 minutes or so for questions, and I'll do my best to answer as many as I can until time's up at 120 minutes. And we'll see. And if you guys are collectively saying, no, we like it better when you chat more and when you're looking at us more and talking to us more, we can always talk about how to fix that. I try to do the best I can do, and I know it's frustrating sometimes. I am such a digressor, and I have ADHD, so staying on task sometimes is a little hard for me, candidly, but I'm always here to improve, and we do what we can. Okay, so welcome to Crystal Masters, which is session 2 of Soul Shift. So if you're in Soul Shift, this is the second of your 4 classes for February. If you're in Crystal Masters, this is your second class this month because we had our live readings in our Facebook group. So you've already had me this month a little bit. And so tonight is all focused on clearing. And I have so much information tonight, you guys. I hope I can get through it all. I'll tell you this, if I can't get through it all tonight, I'll do a little bonus something. I'll do a video or a recording because here's what I want to tell you. Okay, we're focusing on Shungite tonight. You know, we have to have some place to focus. We have to put a pin in the map, right, to say this is what we're going to focus on this month. But clearing and purification and filtration of energy has been a subject of interest since my ancestors began their journey on this planet. And you know, that takes us back to Egypt and Greece, right? So for thousands of years, we've been preoccupied with how do we cleanse, clear, and purify energy, and how do we do that in a sustainable way? Okay, so that's what I'm focused on tonight. And the main tool for tonight, you need to know, is this. This is your tool for tonight. So this is a disc made of what's called Shungite. By the end of tonight's class, you're going to know more about Shungite than you ever wanted to in your entire life, I think, okay? All the way down to, hey, did you know that this stone, which is actually a mineraloid, and we'll talk more about that too. Did you know that this is what led to the Nobel Peace Prize, you know, in 1996? Did you know that? And it is because it has such a unique structure. Nanostructure is what we call it. And a nanostructure is just a type of a cellular structure. If I recall correctly from my physics classes in my college days, I believe nanostructure is in between molecule and, you guys have to remind me, it's a middle structure of a cell, right? So it's the small, it's not the smallest, it's not the largest, it's a middle-sized structure of a molecule. And so this particular material has a molecular structure that's very interesting to scientists, and I'm going to explain to you why that is tonight. Did you know that too? It's so exciting. So we're going to talk all about that. We're going to talk about the fact that this, and I'm going to call it a crystal for tonight, or a stone, because we think of it that way. But you and I both know it's more than that and different from that. This material was so important to the Tsar of Russia because, you know, it's Russian, right? This material was so important to the Tsar of Russia because it cured his mother, who was dying. So I'll tell you this whole story tonight because it's such a powerful material. It's antibacterial, it's antimicrobial, it is antioxidant. If you drink the water in which your Shungite is submerged, it helps to, and these are studies, right? This isn't like Athena saying this. It actually helps to minimize the appearance of aging because it's got so many antioxidants in it. So, or antioxidant potential, I should say. So this is kind of a miracle material, and we try to keep it in stock at Sage Goddess. Alexis will tell you, I went through our website today. We used to have a dozen different types of Shungite on our website. They're all sold out except for these little flat pieces and some Flower of Life grids that I have and some generators. Other than that, we have no Shungite on our website because we can't keep it in stock. It's hard to get, and yet it's been with us on this planet. And depending on where you look, 2 million to 2 billion years. This is one of the first materials that we ever had access to as humans to be able to cleanse, clear, and heal. Yeah, like really, like put it over your face, all those things, right? So it's a big deal tonight what we're talking about with Shungite. Now, the other part of our teaching, and so we're going to cover a lot of territory tonight. This symbol is very important. This symbol is known as the symbol of what's called the Philosopher's Stone in alchemy. And I know some of you are in Crystal Masters, but not in Soul Shift, which is the course in alchemy. I am going to teach a little bit of alchemy tonight because you need to know a little bit for this to really make sense to you, for this to be something that you appreciate, because the symbol is so significant. And this is the Sage Goddess take on the Philosopher's Stone image. There are more than 100 symbols in alchemy, but this is the most important one. So, yeah. I think this is probably one of the most important symbols you can possibly work with in your learning and teaching career. So I want you to really focus when we talk about these symbols that are here tonight. And what I love about it is, and we're going to talk about this too, because I do want to get into smudging tonight. I do want to talk about herbs for clearing energy. And I think it's really important for us to do that. And there are, even today during my live when I was on Facebook, I don't know if you saw it, people were asking today, oh, is it okay to work with white sage? Is that appropriation? Are those closed practices? If you don't mind, I'd love to take 10 minutes maybe tonight and just share my thoughts with you. Mostly because some of you, are working with me and you're new. And maybe it's good for you to know where I stand on some of these things. And so I think it's really important for us to talk about, can everyone work with the clearing tools that are available to us? Or are some tools off limits based on, where you were raised, or what your race or ethnicity is, or all different factors. There are some people who believe you should only work with certain things if they come from the civilization where you were born. And so I want to kind of share my thoughts with you because I have my own thoughts and maybe you have your own thoughts, and then we can formulate a hypothesis about that makes sense for all of us. So let's talk about it tonight, because I would like to talk about it too. I'm just glancing through my notes really quickly. And then I want to talk about, I have 4 pages of notes for tonight, so buckle up. Then I want to talk about practices, and I want to show you what I was taught by my first teacher about how to clear someone's energy field. And so I'm actually going to stand up at that point. I'm going to use my chair back here to show you. And what you really need for that practice, if you want to do it in a traditional way, is you need a feather of some kind. This is a beautiful smudging fan that was created by a man who lives outside of the US, and he is an incredible artist. His shop, I think on Etsy, is Vartra, Vartra. But he makes these smudging fans out of all different birds and different feathers that he incorporates into his tradition and his art. So I love this fan, and I love the tradition of clearing energy for a person. I've done it so many times. Some of you have actually cleared your energy physically when you've come into my classroom. It's a practice I used to do when we could see each other in person. So I'm going to teach you tonight the way I was taught to clear energy from the physical body, and that helps you to anchor the 4 elements too. What I will tell you tonight is this, that the process of clearing energy did not begin with any of our modern lineages. We can trace the process of clearing and cleansing and purifying energy back to Egypt, back to Sumeria, back to Mesopotamia. And I would suggest that it goes back even further than that. That it is thousands and thousands and thousands of years old. And so anyone modern who says, well, smudging is my tradition, I do experience a challenge with that, because what we know is, maybe a certain shell or a certain herb or a certain feather or a certain direction, but we know that going back, I don't know, what would you say, 5,000, 10,000 years? We know that sacred spaces have been cleansed and purified, mostly with resins, before we came into modern times where we had plants, right? And that this has been a practice that has taken us through civilizations. The process of clearing and cleansing and purification has seen civilizations rise and fall. And so the process of cleansing and clearing will be here long after you're gone. And I think the most important thing is for you to figure out, what's your practice going to be? What I've learned is that the most important thing is you have to have a process, and you have to have a protocol, and you have to have respect. and you need to take care of the plants that you work with. Any kind of tradition that you start to work with should not be something you do haphazardly or as part of a fad or because your friend's doing it. It should be something that you almost commit to doing every day. I clear my home and my body and my tools every day with sound and with smoke. And smoke is the oldest form of purification. And like I said, it predates any of our modern civilizations, traditions, or peoples. And so the original cleansers of space are no longer alive. And so we're still in their shadows, sort of working these processes and these practices. We're going to talk about white sage today because that's sort of a North American, and not U.S. traditionally. I mean, it's not only U.S. In Mexico, white sage grows wild, and so throughout Mexico, throughout the whole country of Mexico, white sage is also used in sacred ceremony for cleansing and purification. And they don't refer to it so much as smudging as they do cleansing and purification. And then as you go into South America, you've got other herbs, other resins, and in Mexico, copal, which is a member of the Bursera family, is a resin that gets used for purification. And when you work with copal in different ways, you can actually get the little copal, what they call the tears, right? But you can also get these incense sticks. And we make these in Mexico. We have these made in Mexico. So these are hand-dipped Mayan copal resin sticks. So I'm going to talk to you about that as a tradition and a practice too. I'm going to light one for you so you can actually have the experience of what it's like to receive some of the copal smoke. Thanks, you guys. Well, look, we're just trying a new way tonight. If you don't love it, it's okay. But when I get feedback, I try to address it and receive it, and so we'll see. I mean, if you guys prefer a different way, we can always do that. But let's try a new way tonight and see how we do. Okay, so I want to go back to the beginning, and like I said, I will make time tonight for all of you to ask your questions at the end, and I hope that that will be more than enough space for you to do that. Okay, I want to begin actually by cleansing our space a little bit, and what I want to show you is something that I think is really important. Okay, white sage, Salvia apiana. I grow here at home. My dad grows it from seed. It's his hobby. He just loves growing white sage. It grows wild here in Southern California, but it is endangered, and it grows from Santa Barbara all the way to the north of Mexico. So you traditionally see me open our ceremonies, open our rituals, open our classes with white sage, and I love it. I really do. And so I'm going to do that for you tonight, but I'm going to show you something really interesting. When you get a bundle like this, you don't have to burn the whole bundle. You can cut these strings. I'm sure you probably know this, but just in case you don't, you can cut these strings. And when you do that, you're going to have in your hand a few different separate sticks, because what they do is they collect the sticks from the white sage plant and they gather them together and they bundle them, right? They make them into a stick. And so the best way to conserve your resources is not to burn just the bundle by itself, but it is to take one of these sticks within it and to light that, and just to light one edge, or if you want to be even more conservative, take one leaf. I'll tell you something, most of the indigenous Native American people that I know, when you talk to them about what upsets them with the trend of smudging, okay, most of them will tell you there's no respect for the plant, there's no process, and there's no quality control. So the plants get over-harvested, they get overused, and there's no respect for where the plants come from. There's no respect for the tradition. So I think the most important part is to use, I don't even like the word use, to partner with your herbs and see them as allies, to see them as sacred. This is a sacred plant. This is a teacher. Not unlike ayahuasca, not unlike San Pedro, not unlike any of the plant teachers you'd work with. This is a plant teacher. And the most important thing, I think, is to make sure it's coming from a sustainable place Ours is USDA certified organic and is sustainably harvested on a farm. And they sing to the plants and they make offerings and it's beautiful. So we feel good about that part. And then using the minimal amount that you need because it is endangered is also part of it. And then the intention, right? What is your intention? My intention in burning this single leaf of this incredible plant is to cleanse our space today of any energy that is not in service to our highest good, and to prepare us for a learning experience together, to cleanse our minds, to cleanse our hearts, to cleanse our spirits. Giving you some in case you don't have it. And you want to take a little bit behind you too, right? Because behind you is where energy tends to get stuck. It gathers, you know? And then bringing that in front of you. And like I said, I'll give you a whole protocol today. I'll stand and give you the protocol of how you would actually cleanse, right? But it's really important for you to have the process, the protocol, and the intention in place. And so that was my intention. If you're cleansing and clearing today with any herbs in your collection, you might want to ask yourself, what's my intention today, right? And where did my plant come from, and do I know? And this is why, the one thing I will say, and it's not to say you have to get your herbs from Sage Goddess, you don't, right? Like, there's a billion places on this planet to get white sage and Palo Santo and all of your herbs. But you should ask people, do they know where their plants come from? Are they sustainably and ethically harvested and sourced? That's a big deal. And forget white sage. Let's talk about Palo Santo in Central America and South America, where it's being over-harvested and young trees are being destroyed to cut the wood and stuff like that. You don't want that, right? Because the energy is not accurate. So, you know, asking your sources, where does your stuff come from? Is it ethically and sustainably harvested? What are the harvesting practices like? You know, do you leave offerings? Do you reforest? Once you cut down a tree, do you automatically plant another one? These are the things you should be asking, because these are the questions that are going to lead you to the answers to tell you whether you are sourcing from a good place or not. And there are lots of good places to source that are not my places to source, so I just want to share that with you. You can find great places too in your search. Okay, so why are we talking about herbs and resins when tonight is about alchemy and shungite? Because there are 1,000 ways home. When I talk about cleansing and clearing and purification, you should know I'm not just talking about stones. I'm not just talking about herbs. I'm not just talking about resins. I'm not just talking about wood. I'm talking about water. When was the last time you cleansed and purified your body? When was the last time you gave yourself a salt bath with Dead Sea salt and Epsom salt with lots of magnesium in it, which we know softens and relaxes the muscles in your body, soothes and eases the tension in your body, allows it to be purified, cleansed, and released. And so there are 1,000 different ways to clear, cleanse, and purify. Let's say you don't want to work with any herbs because hands off, right? You don't want to worry about where it comes from or, you know, who sourced it or whatever. Okay. Then work with your crystals. Okay, you don't like crystals. I mean, it'd be weird, you're in Crystal Masters, but let's say you don't like crystals. Okay, how about sound? How about frequency? How about vibration? The first thing I do with someone too is, when I'm working with them, is I cleanse their aura, their auric field, with vibration. Before I go in with crystals, before I go in with clearing herbs, before I come up with an incense blend, before I anoint them with oils, it is to use the power of sound. And I like sound because, as far as I know, nobody has claimed to own it. Except the Egyptians. I actually think the Egyptians own sound. I really do. But they don't claim it. You know what I mean? But I think if the Egyptians could, they would be like, I own those frequencies, because the Egyptians were the first one ever to really harness sound for healing. as far as we know, the Egyptians built pyramids, right? The pyramids are sound chambers. The pyramids are designed, each pyramid up along the Giza pathway was designed to heal and clear energy from each one of your chakras, right? So sound, and nobody's allergic to it, nobody owns it, right? So sound is still free as far as I know. And so that's a really powerful and incredible tool for you to use too. So sound, smoke, right? When we burn our herbs, oils, and water element. So we have air in the form of sound and feathers. If you were here right now and you said, I need to be cleared, I would stand in front of you and I would literally rub this on your body in long strokes. And I would take my time up and down, because feathers are the element of air. So this is air. The ability to burn our resins and herbs is our fire, right? The ability to work with our oils and our water is the water element. You see where I'm going with this? And then our ability to work with our stones is the earth element. Earth, air, fire, and water. So here's my teaching objective for you, okay? And really, it does feel so good. If you were here, you would walk away from this hour feeling really ready to rock and roll. Alchemy is the art and science of balancing, blending, and integrating the 4 elements in your practice. So let's just say you walk out of tonight's class and you go, you know what? I don't want to burn stuff anymore. That tradition belongs to somebody else. I don't want to participate. Great. So that's one tradition. You're taking kind of fire off the plate. But you could work with fire in other ways. You could build a fire. At summer solstice, I've already bought my cauldron. I'm building a huge bonfire for our summer solstice ritual this year. You don't have to burn anything if you don't want to have the fire element activated. And then air gets activated in totally different ways, and water gets activated in totally different ways, and earth gets activated in completely different ways too. So this is my offering to you, okay? The process of using feathers in clearing is indigenous to the North American, Native American tribes. It's indigenous to Central and South America, to the shamanic traditions there. It's also indigenous to Siberian shamanism. It's indigenous to the Norse and Druidic traditions. So in terms of who did it first, I'm going to wager a guess, because I don't know for sure. And I've been studying this all my life. But I believe the Egyptians were the first to use feathers in their traditions and ceremonies as the element of air. You have to remember that Ma'at, who is the figure in ancient Egypt of balance and justice and law, right? She's the one who keeps the scales of right and wrong. Ma'at's headdress is, of course, adorned with feathers. She used feathers to move energy before she would make her assessment of people's, justice. So I think that Egypt is where the use of feathers for the element of air began, right, with Ma'at. But it certainly carries through the Druid pantheon. It carries through the Siberian shamanic, which is the original shamanism, comes from Siberia. So I don't give Central and South America credit for shamanism because it really began in Siberia, although there's very few active Siberian shamans today. So most of shamanism today is practiced in North, Central, and South America, but it didn't originate there. But indeed, the Siberian shaman absolutely used feathers, different birds, right, for their traditions. So that's right. So ostrich feathers were the tool of Ma'at, and in the Native American indigenous traditions, you see a lot of the North American birds. This one, I believe it's owl, but I'm not 1,000% sure. I mostly work with turkey and peacock because those are my kind of favorite birds to work with for smudging fans, clearing fans, cleansing fans, right? So it really just depends on what you love. I found this man on Etsy, and I only share him with you just in case you would like a beautiful fan. You can also make your own fan. He just has incredible energy. And I've become quite addicted to the things that he makes because he has access to beautiful feathers and wings and all kinds of things. So, because I don't offer any of that. So if you like something like this, I think this is Barn Owl. I like it because there's all the triangles and the feathers. Do you see? So I'm glad you're liking that one too. The Baltic indigenous traditions do too, Maruta. So that's what I'm saying. One of the things you might want to do is look to your own tradition, your own pantheon. Look to your own roots and origin stories. Because I bet in your story, there are birds that are sacred, there are traditions that are sacred, there are resins that are sacred. In Greece, for example, we burn a lot of this particular monastery incense. Even today in Athens, you'll smell it as you're walking through the streets in the afternoon. And the churches will be burning it. It's this like heavy rose scent, this monastery incense that's very sacred, and it's how they consecrate and dedicate sacred space. And they'll mix it with myrrh, and they'll mix it with frankincense. And that's sort of an homage to the Christian tradition because we know that those were given as gifts to the Christ child by the wise men. So isn't it interesting? So this is why I tell you, and that's why I wanted to speak to this tonight, because I think it's so important. Cleansing and purification don't belong to anyone. They belong to you. And your roots, your spiritual roots and your physical roots have tools and techniques and strategies to help you. And rattles are a good way to clear energy too. And he has rattles too. This is one of his rattles. He was my favorite find of 2020, I have to tell you. His little shop on Etsy was my favorite. But he makes beautiful rattles too with antlers, which is cool because this is an air element tool, but then this is earth, right? When you have the naturally shed antler, then you have an earth element energy in the crystal too. So the other thing I do, like if when I used to do in-person healing and somebody would come to me and go, oh my God, Athena, like I need you to, I'm so heavy, it's so hard right now, I'm really struggling. The first thing I would do is sit down, you know, burn some herbs or some resin, some copal, and move at the 4 directions, right, to sort of shake off some of that energy. And then you have the person turn around and you do it down the backside too. North to south and east to west is the best way to do it. So, but you're going to find your tools and you're going to find your techniques and you're going to find your strategy. The main thing I wanted to tell you tonight, though, is the most important thing and what I've learned is respect, truly. The only kind of strange comment I've ever seen or heard from anyone is that, well, it doesn't even matter. I've seen some really strange things, but I think the most important thing is to have a process, to have respect for the source of the herbs or the stones or the tools or the manufacturers or the tradition, but recognize too, there is no one tradition on this planet that owns a practice. South Americans don't own shamanism, right? Native Americans don't own the process of clearing energy with herbs and resins. Unfortunately, I have to say that because I have a story that takes it back earlier than that. And so we all have adapted these practices. And we have to recognize that we are intermingled now. It's all in the mix, but the most important part is we can maintain these ceremonial aspects of it and the respect for it, and having a process and not overusing our tools. That's where I think it gets kind of to be a rub, is don't use too much of your herbs because they are sacred and because they are endangered in some cases. Okay, so I wanted to mention that to you before we move forward. Now, let's talk about shungite. Rattles are fun, and I will tell you, if you don't have a rattle in your collection yet, you might want to pick one up. And you don't have to have a rattle from Vartra's beautiful, but it's very expensive because everything is handmade, and he's worth every penny, but he's an artist. You can find a rattle, and honestly, my first rattle, I'm not embarrassed to tell you this, was a bottle of vitamins. When I was young and I went to a drum circle and I really wanted to be able to participate, but I had absolutely $0, I reached out to the person who was leading the drum circle and I said, what can I bring? I don't have a rattle and I don't have a drum. I mean, I must have been like 18, 19 years old. And the teacher said, bring a bottle of vitamins. And I didn't believe it until I got there. I brought my little bottle of vitamins, okay? And I shook my B6 or whatever it was, right? And I loved it. I felt part of it, and I felt welcomed, and I felt seen because I didn't have to, like, pretend to be other than I was. And so if all you're starting with as a rattle is a bottle of B6 vitamins like me 30 years ago, I think that's great. You don't have to have super fancy tools. Andrea makes rattles, so you've got allies in our community and you can connect with each other, but you got to shake what your mama gave you, and so you just find your way with your own handmade tools, and then you can upgrade later. And I'll tell you, those drum circles when I had my vitamins were so much fun, because I wasn't worried about, did I have the right thing, and is it the right this, and will it make the right sound? I was just there to experience the energy of it. So I really want to encourage you to, whatever you've got is going to work for you until you can, get where you want to be. Okay, so let's talk about shungite, your tool this month in Crystal Masters. And this year in Crystal Masters, we're doing a little bit more targeted education. Last year it was like big, wide, broad education. This year I'm kind of bringing it in and making it a little bit more narrow and focused for you. And this month is about clearing and purification, because this is the best filtering material on the planet. And I'm really excited to teach you the history of this. If you have my crystal history book called Crystal Lore, Legends, and Myths, then you've already read about shungite, because there's a section about shungite in there. If you don't have the book, you can find it on Amazon, because believe it or not, I'm sold out. I know, but you can find Crystal Lore on Amazon. You don't need it though, because I'm going to teach you everything you need to know about shungite tonight. But if you want more information about the history of your crystals, that book is there for you as a resource. So shungite comes to us from Russia. And the exact region is called Karelia. I'm like, where in my notes is that? Karelia. Karelia is the primary region of Russia where your shungite comes from. So I'm going to go kind of intellectual for a second and give you all the nuts and bolts on shungite. So if you want to take notes, Alexis, though, and our team, internal team, is taking notes for you tonight too. So if you want to just listen and pay attention, you don't have to write too much down. They're going to have it for you later. Yeah. Oh, I'm so glad. Okay. So shungite was first named in 1879. It was first identified. But you and I both know it's been around a lot longer than that. They just gave it a name. And they named it shungite because it comes from the Shunga village of Russia. So if your shungite's not Russian, Houston, we have a problem. Okay? And you're always welcome to ask, hey, does your shungite come from Russia? I've seen fake shungite. I've seen fake moldavite. I mean, I've seen a lot of stuff. There is fake shungite. Once you know, you'll never fall for it again. Shungite has a very particular appearance to it that you'll start to recognize. Different from hematite, for example. And it often has, especially when it's tumbled, it has kind of a, let me focus there. There we go. It has a hammered appearance to it, almost like it's been hit with a hammer. And hematite doesn't have that. So if it doesn't have, when it's tumbled, if it doesn't have like a hammered kind of look to it, on a plate like this, you're not going to see the hammering because this has been carved and polished and all of that. But when you have a tumbled piece, and it shouldn't feel, it is a little light. Like these are the little flat pieces we have at Sage Goddess. It is a little light, like shale. It is light. This is it natural out of the mine. So it has kind of a mottled texture to it, and then when they polish it, it looks like that. It has a sheen to it, kind of. So you'll learn to discern whether you have real deal shungite or not. There aren't a lot of fakes out there, but there's some. Moldavite, there's a ton of fakes out there, so you got to be really careful because people sell glass, green glass as Moldavite. Shungite, you don't have to be as worried. If it's too cheap, you probably should look at it, make sure, and ask, like, hey, did this come from Russia? What part of Russia does it come from? How did you get it? You know, it's always good to ask those questions. It looks weirdly edible to you. That's interesting too. So it is what characterizes shungite. And I have a theory about shungite, and I'll tell you this is just my theory. So this is just Athena. This is not science. This is not anything I can prove. When I was diagnosed with MS, the number one mineral that my friend at the time, who was a crystal healer, said, you've got to have Tibetan quartz. And he said, Athena, I'm going to tell you right now, I have seen people heal from these insane diseases using Tibetan quartz. That's what he told me, okay? And he said, you need Udilite and Sujilite because those are central nervous system healers. And you need Kyanite because that's going to help align your central nervous system because MS is when that's out of balance. And he said, and then you got to get carbon. And Tibetan quartz is quartz with carbon. So it's magnified carbon. And he's like, I don't know how to explain this to you, but I'm telling you there's something in carbon that is helping people heal from these radical diseases. Interesting. Okay, just hold that thought. The elite shungite will turn your hand black. This is not going to turn your hand black. Polished pieces are not going to turn your hand black. Okay? So I started working with these crystals. Okay? And I got better and better and better, and my health is really good. And I still work with those crystals. But then I started to work with shungite, which he did not recommend at the time. He did not mention shungite. Okay? Shungite, good shungite, is 96 to 99% what? Carbon. Okay, so I'm just telling you, I'm putting these pieces together. This is anecdotal. It's my own research. It's me working on my own physical healing. Okay, so I started to do research, and I'm like, holy shit, shungite is at its best 94 to 99% carbon. The elite shungite, like we had in the gem sale yesterday, 98, 99% carbon. Okay, this is interesting. What does carbon produce? Just go with me for a second. And again, I can't prove any of this, okay? Carbon produces, under pressure, diamonds. Okay? Diamonds, for me, are, and I don't talk about this very often because I don't have them. They're very expensive. I can't sell them to you. We're trying to source natural diamonds for Sage Goddess right now, but it's so expensive. I have to make sure they're not blood diamonds and all this stuff. Diamonds are pain relievers. They are. And I've heard so many people over my lifetime talk about it, okay? That where they place diamonds, the pain dissipates. It doesn't have to be fancy diamonds. It can be rough, natural, out-of-the-earth diamonds, but diamond is a pain reliever. So I was like, well, this is interesting. So Tibetan quartz is hard to find, and it doesn't have as much carbon as shungite, per cubic inch, right? So interesting. If you have a lot of pain, I would like for you to experiment with shungite first. And if it works for you, I would like you to try a diamond. Even if you just get a rough diamond, I don't have them, but you can find them on Etsy or eBay, or I don't know, you can look around. I would like you to experiment with it just to try, okay? Because, Herkimer diamond won't count because it's quartz. You gotta try an actual diamond that is produced from carbon. There's something to it, and I just don't have data to show you. And I'm a researcher, so that bugs me. But at the same time, I would be remiss not to tell you that I have had pain relieving experiences with shungite. And I think it's because of the high carbon content. And I've also had pain relieving experiences with diamond. And it doesn't take much diamond, and it doesn't take long. Okay, so I want you to really try to see if you have this experience. It's cheaper to experiment with shungite, which is mostly carbon, and then if it works for you, you can sort of graduate to diamond. Does that make sense? So that's something I want you to think about. Okay. Shungite, depending on where you look, is 2 million to 2 billion years old. Shungite appeared on this planet, according to most sources, before the first evidence of organic life emerged on the planet. Isn't that interesting? Before there was any other form of life, there was Shungite. Why is that? Okay. And like I said, it was first named and identified in 1879 in the Shunga village of Russia. So what do we do in the world when we identify something? We name it for the person who found it, and we say, oh, this was found in 1879. But we know that it's been here for much longer than that through dating, right? Okay. Peter the Great, and I love history and I love stories. Peter the Great in Russia created the first Russian spa. This is actually really true. In Karelia, where Shungite was discovered, he set up a spa in the 1900s, and what he did is he created these like waiting pools that people could sit in inside the spa, and he had water that had been marinating in the Shungite bath that he would have people drink. And so he created this whole, it was like one of the first spa experiences in Russia, was entirely designed by Peter the Great. The leadership of Russia has really always been aware of the power of Shungite. Even today, it's used throughout Russia for cleansing and healing and pain relief. It's also used for anti-aging in a lot of different facials and different spa treatments. They have these ointments that they make where they soak the ingredients with Shungite and then they apply it to the face. They say it reduces the appearance of lines and wrinkles. Okay. Okay. Now, the other story that's really interesting, and I've always been interested in the Tsars of Russia. My mom was fascinated with Russian history and Romanov history, so I actually heard a little bit of this from my mom eons ago, and then did a little more research ahead of tonight just to sort of fact check all of this. Isn't it interesting? So can you imagine? I would love to go to Russia with you and go to like a Shungite spa. Maybe we could get some vodka, some Shungite vodka, and we could like lay in these like Shungite baths and stuff. I'm super down for that. As soon as COVID is over, we're gonna go to a Shungite spa. Now, Xenia Romanov, Xenia, Xenia, it's actually a Greek word, was the mother of the first Tsar of Russia, and she was very sick. And so someone came to the Tsar and said, give your mother this water. It was water that had been, infused with raw Shungite. Give your mother this water. And she healed. I mean, depends on the story you read. Everybody thought she was not going to make it. Can you imagine? You're an older child with an older parent, and you think she's not going to make it, and somebody says, give her this water, and she drinks it, and she gets better. Whoops. Okay. So this developed a whole new trajectory once Xenia Romanov was healed. This is also, Shungite is the reason that the Russians did not die of dysentery in the 18th century. They were drinking Shungite-infused water. Again, Shungite is antibacterial, antimicrobial, antifungal. Now here's where it gets interesting. Are you ready? This isn't too dense for you, is it? I drink Shungite water every day. I literally do. I drink Shungite water every day. I'm just checking in with you to make sure I'm not going too fast. You guys can give me feedback, by the way. Now, in 1996, Shungite was awarded a Nobel Prize in chemistry. Isn't that interesting? And again, as a science geek, I'm like, woo, we got a Nobel Prize. What's happening? Okay, good. Fullerenes. And I encourage you to do your research here. Fullerenes. Fullerenes. Okay? Are the type of nanostructures, the little microcellular structures in Shungite. And it destroys pathogens. It breaks down the walls of viruses and bacteria before they can invade the human system. You thinking what I'm thinking? Might be a good time to have some shungite water. It breaks down. It can recognize. There's an intelligence in this nanostructure that recognizes pathogens and actually breaks down, dissolves the wall structure of the pathogens before they enter the human bloodstream. Interesting. So what I will tell you is, if you want to drink shungite water, and again, you can get shungite a bunch of places. I have these pieces at Sage Goddess. This is what you should have in your water if you want to do this. Don't overdo it. And there's 2 different ways to put shungite in your water. And I'm going to teach you those 2 different ways right now, okay? Indirect, direct. And some of you know this already, but whatever, you're going to hear it again. These are the 2 different ways to make elixirs, okay? The direct method of making an elixir is you take your glass. Mine has, this is apple juice. Zoe made me a little mocktail today of apple juice with ginger ale, which is actually really good. So that's what this is. You take your shungite like this and you put it into the glass with your water. You shouldn't do this with other things, but with your water. And you should be drinking, it's hard to tell you how much water to drink a day. I drink 32 ounces of water a day with lemon. And I start it, so I drink 8 ounces of water when I wake up, shungite water. So it's water with lemon and a piece of shungite in the bottle. I drink about 8 to 12 ounces, sometimes up to 16 ounces. And then I wait half an hour before I eat anything. And before I go to bed, I stop all eating about an hour before I have my last 8 to 16 ounces of lemon water. And then put your shungite in there, if you can swing it, okay? So this is a great plate for you to be working with for charging items. You can put it in your bathtub. But in terms of physically ingesting it, I'd rather that you ingested water that did not have the additional gold engraving material on it. So if you're going to put something in it that's going to go physically into your body, I'd like you to have just a plain piece of shungite. This looks almost identical to the piece I have downstairs. I only have 1 piece of shungite that I work with for my water, but this looks like it, okay? So, and lemon water is really good. It alkalizes your system. It'll help you maintain your weight. Even if you don't limit your calories or limit your carbs or anything, if you start drinking lemon water, you will lose weight. And it's just good for cleansing and purifying your system. It cleanses and purifies your palate. It's a great Ayurvedic tool if you're familiar with Ayurveda. So this is the kind of stone you want to keep if you're going to have it in your water bottle or put it in your tea. The other way to make elixirs is indirect, okay, which means I would take my Zoe Creation and sit it on a coaster, okay? And then you would, throughout the day, whether it's, and Alexis does this with her water bottle, I know. So she's been using her coaster, and all day her water bottle sits on that, and then when she drinks her water, that's called the indirect method. If you believe in energy, you don't have to have the crystal in your water to get the properties and the benefits of it. So put it in your water filter, yes. Put it in your, get yourself a big old jug of water, a gallon of water, and pop that sucker in there. It's really good, and here's why it works, okay? Even if you don't believe in the antibacterial and antimicrobial, and I'll tell you, there are studies you can look up. 2016, 2017, 2014, these are all studies. In 2003. In 2003, there is and these are all clinical studies, okay? In 2003, there was a study that showed, now it was a study done on rats, which I'm not a huge one for animal included studies, but we look at the data, right? So I wouldn't do a rat study, but they did, and here's the data. In 2003, there was a study that proved that shungite protected these rats from electromagnetic frequencies. Okay, so it blocks EMF. In 2017, there was a study that proved that shungite has antioxidant properties, meaning it's gonna work against the free radicals and help to reduce and minimize the effects of aging on your skin and your body. Now, my doctor would tell you, how the hell do we know? I don't know, but I'm aging pretty well. A lot of you are aging pretty well, right? Is it because we're putting shungite in our water? Is it because we're drinking lemon water? Is it because we're, eating a whole food diet? Is it because we're doing yoga? Is it because we're, removing toxic relationships from our life. Like, we don't really know what it is, but we do know that it has some antioxidant properties that really work against the free radicals to help you with the appearance of fine lines and wrinkles. And then there was another study. It reduces the inflammatory response. This was a 2013 study. And inflammation is a big deal for me and my daughter because we have autoimmune diseases that causes a lot of ancillary inflammation in our system. So Zoe drinks shungite water, I drink shungite water. It does have an anti-inflammatory response, meaning that it reduces the amount of overall inflammation in the body. And yes, last but not least, that 2003 study showed that shungite protected rats from electromagnetic frequencies. It shielded them. So the number one shungite product that sells at sagegoddess.com are these little flat $4 stones. And what people do is they take their phone and they glue it to the back of their phone case. Or they have a piece sitting near their cell phone charger, or they keep it somewhere near their phone. I have so many clients who keep shungite near their bedside table. The little spheres that we had for you this week on the stands would be great to keep near your bedside table. If you charge your phone near where you sleep, you should have at least a small piece of shungite there to help to mitigate some of the effects of EMF. It's incredible, isn't it? What shungite does. Let me make sure I've gone through all my notes for you. I personally, I'll tell you where I want to do more research is I want to understand this this capacity for shungite to detect pathogens and break down the cellular wall. Because if that's true, if it can detect a pathogen in the environment, and if it can break down the wall of a virus or a bacteria before it reaches your system, the implications of that, I think, as a scientist, are pretty significant. And I think should be tested and replicated. So anywhere you feel like there's EMF in your environment, and I mean, we are a highly technological family. My husband used to run tech companies in the Silicon Valley before, he came and joined me for Sage Goddess. So Dave loves technology. The kids have all the technologies. Our house is fully wired and stuff. So I've got shungite everywhere, and I just highly recommend too, if you're a very technological family with a lot of the equipments, it's probably a good thing to keep your shungite close by. Okay. Let's see. We talked about smudging. We talked about shungite. And then the last thing I want to talk to you about, and then I'm going to see if you have any questions, and then I'm going to go into our exercise for tonight. But isn't it incredible? And I'll tell you something, and you probably agree with this. And if you don't, I'd love to hear your perspective too, because I'm very open-minded. One of my first teachers told me, and I still think is the truest thing I've ever heard. She said, remember, Athena, for every ailment on this planet, the cure is already here. Our universe is polar, right? This is what I teach you in alchemy, that we live in a polar universe, right? There's black and white, and yes and no, and light and shadow, and good and evil, and all the polar opposites, right? And so her theory was, if we have a disease like cancer, then we also have the cure. That's just how our universe works. Doesn't mean we've found it, doesn't mean we've connected the dots, but it means we have the cure. So we have to keep looking. And when I think about something like shungite, her words come to mind for me. If we have an illness, we have the cure. And then the question becomes, are we going to be like humble enough to think that maybe the cure could be a crystal? And I'm not saying it is, but just we have to look at these things, and we have to look holistically at our health and our healing. Crystals are not, super profitable. So that may be why they're not explored as diligently as medicines, you know what I mean? Because they're more profitable, but I still think it's very interesting. If we have a disease here, I think we have the cure. I really do. My teacher at the time, by the way, went so far as to say, if we have an illness here, the cure is on the same continent. That was her theory. What do you think of that? If we have an illness here on the planet, the cure is on the continent. Where the disease originated, that's where you find the cure. It's fascinating. And then it's a question of like, okay, so where did it originate? And then are we like honoring that kind of, because she was saying the planet is an intelligent system. So if it produces an illness, it will produce the cure, and it'll produce it in the same area or region so that you don't have to look too hard. So you're not going to have a virus coming out of one country that gets cured in some other country. So you got to look to the origin story. It's fascinating, right? Okay. So the last thing I want to teach you, intellectually speaking, tonight is the Philosopher's Stone. Now, those of you who are in Crystal Masters but not Soul Shift have not been working a lot with the alchemy curriculum so far this year. But I do like to bridge your experiences sometimes, because Soul Shift is all alchemy, which is the art of spiritual and physical transformation using the elements. So this symbol, what I love about it is it connects our two groups, you know, because sometimes Soul Shift is a little bit separate from Crystal Masters. Crystal Masters is part of Soul Shift, but it's not the whole thing. So, I'm trying not to answer your questions just yet, but I'll get there in just a second. So if you have questions, hold on to them. So this is the Philosopher's Stone symbol. And what this is a representation of the 4 elements. It's also a representation of the principle called as above, so below. So the theory is that there's actually a midline on this symbol, and that this top triangle is the spirit world, and then what is from this line down is the material world. And that this circle, remember, circles in magic are very important. They delineate the boundary. The circle is actually the entire cosmos. So we here on this planet are having a human experience, and then there is a spiritual experience, and all of that is being held in one system. Isn't that cool? So I love this symbol so much. I'm going to walk you through it just a little more clearly. I will tell you this too. So I'm going to walk you through the way I was taught this symbol. If you start doing research, you're going to see different people describe it different ways. And I don't think anybody's right or wrong. I think it's just how you're taught. And so I'm going to share with you my perspective. And this is a special edition of the symbol because the traditional Philosopher's Stone does not have a heart. So the heart is my unique addition to this very sacred alchemical symbol. I added it for a couple of reasons. And I had a choice. Did I want the heart to touch the circle or not? It's a very conscious choice. If the heart touches the circle, then the suggestion there is that because the circle represents the 2 elements, mercury and lead, that get transformed to gold. So if the circle touches, or if the heart touches the circle, the idea is that the heart is elemental. The heart is part of the prima materia. I don't believe it is. So that's why my recommendation to my team, which they followed, was to keep the heart in the center of the circle. From my perspective, all of alchemy begins here, in the heart of who you are. When I show you my smudging technique, my clearing technique in just a second, I'm going to show you that I actually focus on the 4 directions, and then Father Sky and Mother Earth, and then the heart of the human that you're actually clearing. Because the rest of it is external, there has to be something internal, otherwise it's empty. And every time I've had someone clear my energy field ceremonially where they didn't acknowledge my heart, it felt all external to me, which is fantastic. But for me, a lot of times what needs to be cleansed and cleared and purified is actually internal. It's in my heart. It's my own fears and my own grief and my own process and my own struggle, right, that needs to be processed and integrated and released and transmuted and all of that. So I just want you to know this was a very conscious choice. Like everything about this was intentional. So I don't believe that heart is connected to anything specific. I think that this heart represents you in the calculus, right, of energy. What happens external, the quality of it, depends entirely on the quality of what's internal. If this is accurate, if this is true, if this is authentic, if this is whole, if this is healed, then what gets created and manifested here is also authentic and true and healed and whole. If what begins here is broken and disordered, you know what I mean? Then, because the part is the whole and the whole is the part, so the internal mechanisms of your healing have to be aligned to the external goals of your healing, or you're not going to get where you want to go. It all has to start inwardly. So I'm glad that resonates with you. Okay. Now, the way this works is the circle, some people, how do I do this? Let me draw for you. Okay. Some people, and I say this with no judgment because there's just different ways of doing different things, right? So some people look at this symbol, so you have the triangle, and the triangle has to touch all four edges of the square, and then you have the circle, which has to touch all four sides of the circle. Triangle. Inside the triangle, I'm a shitty artist, so don't you judge me. It's not nice. But you get the point. So the sides of the cube have to touch the edges of the triangle, and then the circle inside, look at my shitty circle, has to touch all four sides of that cube. You see how it's, I mean, this is real bad here. What am I doing? It's hard to do it opposite wise, but you know what I'm saying. So, and the point is that the energy moves outward and it all has to be connected. So that's why I was telling you my decision to put the heart in the middle with no connection was very significant, because this is you floating in the ether of the elements, right? No judging. This isn't an art contest, and if it were, I would fail miserably, and I'm okay with that because I have other gifts to give you, and art is not the gift I'm going to give you tonight. My daughter's an artist, by the way. Some of you know that. I mean, she's really good. So it's really funny because she looks at my stuff and she's like, "It's okay, Mom." You know, it's bad when your 11-year-old is like, "It's okay, Mom." I didn't do well in art class. I have other gifts. Okay, so this is the only part that's floating free is you. And then you get to the circle. And what some alchemists will say is that this is two parts here. So this is mercury and lead. So this is actually the metals, okay? Because this symbol, and you got to remember the outer circle has to touch the three outer edges of the triangle. Do you see that? Again, shitty, but we're not judging, okay? So the outer circle is the cosmos. So there's you interacting with the elements, the actual metal elements, and then once those elements and you interact with the cosmos, we have what's called the Philosopher's Stone. The Philosopher's Stone, in ancient times, in traditional metal alchemy, okay, which is not spiritual alchemy, metal alchemy was the quest to turn crappy things into great things. It was the quest to turn lead or mercury into gold. And the ancient alchemists really believed they could do this. That if they had the right conditions and they had the right substances and they had the right symbols and the right incantations and that they could take lead and make it gold. Because the whole goal was gold. And I have a theory about that too, which I wrote about in my book, but I'll share it briefly with you. The theory about why gold, and sometimes you guys ask me, well, why do you wear gold jewelry? Why do you make, like some of your jewelry that I make for you has gold in it, and a lot of you don't like gold because you're really silver people. And so I've been asked for so long, why gold? The reason why I have some gold jewelry, even though I prefer silver too, is that it is the origin story of our planet. When this planet was colonized by humans, and really the earliest foundational civilization we have is Sumerian Mesopotamia, the legend is that those humans were actually hybrid humans. They were part human, part starseed. And they were brought here because there was a civilization known as the Anunnaki, or the Anukim, who needed gold because their civilization was dying. And gold was what would heal them and cure them and allow them to survive and persevere. And so the Anukim, or the Anunnaki, were surveying our solar system, looking for planets. And of course, they had technology to scan the planets from outer space, okay? They scanned all the planets to see which planet had the highest proportion of gold in the matrix. And Earth has a huge amount of gold. And even today, I always tease my husband, because he loves Gold Rush and all those shows about finding gold. Like, that is, if my husband has an hour to himself, he's watching Gold Rush, and he has been for years. He's fascinated with it. I think he would go to the Klondike and mine gold or whatever if he could. Why did they need it? So the theory is that they were dying, and that gold was a substance that they could use to transmute the illness or disease or whatever was happening to the Anukim and bring them back to life. So they found Earth, okay? It's interesting, isn't it? I mean, I don't know if it's true or not, because how do we prove it? But they found Earth. They found that they had all this gold content in the matrix of the, in the mantle and the crust. And then they descended on Earth, the Anukim. And then they were like, oh, it's actually hard to mine this. Then they realized it was all under the Earth, right? It was all under the crust. So then they decided to create slaves to mine gold. And that is the theory of how the Sumerians and Mesopotamians came to be. That the Anukim said, okay, this is hard. This sucks. We're not doing it. We'll make them do it. And so they created this race of humans, okay? It could be that they were protecting their environment, or they were, like my theory, which is what I heard, which is they were dying and they needed it to transmute whatever this virus or illness was, because remember, gold has all of those same properties, antibacterial, antimicrobial, all those things, right? It could have been UV protection. It could have been all these things. In any case, that's the origin story of our planet, according to a lot of different sources. So when people say, well, why is gold so important? I think that's why we still prize it. I think that's still why it's so expensive. The price of gold goes up all the time. During the pandemic, the price of gold has skyrocketed. Why is that? Because people still see it as a really valid source of financial investment, because the value of it stays static over time, right? So the idea of the Philosopher's Stone, in a nutshell, is that through the harmonizing of earth, air, fire, and water, that you can take mercury and or lead, and through the elements and through the harmonizing of the elements with the cosmos, that you can create this energy field called the Philosopher's Stone, which would enable you to be able to transform in a crucible, in a laboratory setting, mercury or lead into gold. And then they became gods. Ta-da! There's your whole history of the planet Earth. But it's very interesting to me, because I think it's fascinating that we still have this obsession with gold after all these years, and you'd think we'd be over it by now. But we're not, and we still really value it. We still treasure it. We still appreciate it, right? I'm having a ring made right now. One of my Indian sources of gemstones sent me a gift, which is an octagonal hessonite garnet. It's really crazy. I think it's 6 or 8 carats. And so I sent it to my favorite jeweler, who's just putting it on a gold band for me, kind of sticking it with some prongs on there so I can wear it. But he was like, do you want 9 carat or 14 carat or 18 carat? And I was like, I don't know, whatever isn't going to bend, because the lower the carat weight of your gold, the stronger it is. So I think we're doing 9 carat, because gold is so expensive right now. But anyway, I find this all fascinating, and so I still incorporate gold, even though it's not my favorite, and most of my jewelry is silver, and my wedding set is platinum, and I don't wear a lot of gold metals. You're still going to see a hybrid, because I think it's important to have gold in your field, even if it's just one little piece of gold or a fleck of gold or anything. I think it takes us back to why we're here, and it takes us back to the origin story of alchemy too. Okay. So I would like to activate your plate tonight. This is your ultimate cleansing and transformation plate. to purify your energy and help you transform your base metals into gold, whatever that is, your lower frequency emotions into your higher frequency emotions, your sadness into joy, your grief into hope, your, I don't know, lack into prosperity. Like this is what we're doing, because that's the spiritual essence of alchemy, is transforming something that's low vibration into something that's high vibration so that it brings you additional healing. Yeah. Okay, cool. So this is what we're working with tonight. So what I want you to do, we're going to activate this and do a little ceremony, and then I will make space for all your questions in about 10 minutes. Does that sound good? I'm glad. I'm having so much fun with you tonight, and I hope that you're finding this to be helpful. And then at the end of tonight's class, I would love to hear your feedback, not right now, on whether this worked for you, if you like this, and if so, we'll keep going like this, and we'll just kind of go from there. And yes, please activate any shungite plates you have. If you have the Flower of Life plate that I had back in the day, activate that tonight. Why not do both? Why not? I'm glad you like it. I'm super into this, which is why I'm here and why we're doing the thing. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull my chair over, my harp chair, and I'm going to work with my harp chair as if there's somebody on it to show you what this would look like for a client. Does that work for you? That way it gives you kind of a real sense of a lived experience. Because even though we're here and I don't have my team and stuff, I still like to kind of give you a proper experience of what this work looks like. Yeah, and then you can definitely use your, if you have tumbled, if you have a palm stone, like kind of whatever you have would be good for tonight. What I'm going to do is go and put these underneath the chair, because this would be what I would be doing if you were here as a client. So I'm going to move the chair over. Give me just a second, logistically, to get us in order. So anything you want to have, and I'm going to, actually maybe I need to pull this back a little bit so you guys can see better. Is that better? Yeah, I think this is better. Now, yeah, in this chair, you would lose your mind. I'll show you this chair really quick. I don't want to go too far over time, so I won't do a whole demo for you, but I will show you. The back of this chair is a harp, which is really cool. And it's attuned to 432. Okay, if you don't have any shungite, what I would recommend is that you activate something else in your collection that's a good clearing stone for you. Obsidian would be fantastic for tonight. Let's talk about alternatives real quick, okay? Obsidian would be great for tonight if you have a piece of obsidian. The Aztecs believed that obsidian was the most important form of fire in lapidary form, and that it could cleanse and clear any negative energy or illness from the body. So if you have obsidian, go get that. If you have shungite, grab that. If you have black kyanite, you know what black kyanite looks like. If you have selenite, great clearing stone. If you have smoky quartz, go grab that. Okay? These are SG pants. We just haven't had them in a long time. But they're my favorite pants because it's really great for moving and grooving and getting around the space. Okay. So I'm going to show you a whole routine and make sure that you can hear me too. Jet's great, yeah. And it's a ton of carbon in Jet, so that's great, Nathan. I think that's brilliant too. Thank you for that suggestion. Anybody else have other suggestions? Tibetan quartz would be great. Black kyanite would be great. Selenite's great. Obsidian is great. Yeah, your underworld ring has your obsidian in it. You're in good shape. Okay. So if you were here, like I said, I always begin by clearing with a sound tool. This is a tuning fork in quartz. We only have 3 dozen of these left. So I was going to mention it today, and I didn't want to tell anybody in case you guys want one, because we have 20% off right now at SG. So this is our clear quartz tuning fork. And what I do with people when they're sitting in the chair is take the fork, and you can do it to yourself too, and I make the cross over the body. So I start at the top of the head and bring the tuning fork down and remove. And then I bring the fork to the side, and I bring the fork to the side. Some people like to bring the fork all the way down and put the 2 points on the ground to stabilize and ground the energy. You don't have to do that. That's like an extra step. But at least you want to bring it through the whole field to the floor, because you want to cross both axes of energy. And then of course if I'm here with the chair, now the next step is you want to burn some cleansing herbs. I've got some white sage. I've got white sage with dragon's blood. And these are all things we have on the website, but you know, find what you like. I've got some Palo Santo. I like to just kind of light everything and get the smoke going. Got some Shasta sage from Mount Shasta, which has huge Middle Earth, root chakra energy to it too. Do I have enough smoke? I'll just light that just a little bit more. You do want a fair amount of smoke to work with. There we go. Okay. Now, you want to honor the 4 elements here. And you're not opening a circle. You're just moving sunwise, clockwise, okay? So you don't have to close this circle. You're not opening a circle. You're just acknowledging the elements in your clearing practice, okay? You can always give your smudge a little blow if it's not fired up enough. I actually need more smoke. Hold on, let me. A nice alternative too, if you're smoke compromised like I am right now, is to take a copal stick there we go. That's actually producing more smoke than my bundles. So that can be good too. Okay, so in my room, this is east. This direction is east. And then the opposite is west. This direction in front of the chair is north. And the opposite is south. So you're gonna see me move around. And you're pretending this is a person. Okay, so this is what I would be doing in my tradition of a cleansing ceremony. So you always wanna begin in the east. And you want to keep your tools that you're activating underneath the person. so that their energy system is connecting with their earth star all the way to their soul star. So you want to start in the east, and you want to take the smoke, and you want to move it with your fan up to the top of their head, and then down, and you want to bring it all the way to the floor. And if this was an actual person, I would be literally making contact and brushing the smoke through and making contact to their entire energy system, starting in the east. And here you want to honor the element of air, of moving energy through, of cleansing and purifying. And think about how the element of air does move energy. It moves it physically in a form that you can see. Smoke is an air element substance too. So again, you want to bring it down and up. And I always like to end by bringing the smoke down and making contact with the earth. And then you're going to come south, so you'll be in front of the person on the other side. You can have them turn with you. And again, bringing the smoke up over the head, and then bringing the smoke down to their feet. And then you want to move to the west. And then bring it down to the floor, and up over their head, but always concluding with grounding the smoke and the energy back down to the earth. And then in the north. So you're bringing it up over and down. And you can do it twice if you prefer, but you always have to end by bringing the smoke back down to the earth to ground the energy. And what you've done effectively is create a perimeter, right? I've had a lot of sparks hit this floor, so I'm not too worried about it. You want to ground the perimeter of these tools when you're activating, and you've got a lot of smoke left, so you can decide if you want to keep it burning, stick it into a plant, which is what I do, I stick it in my plant, or you can stick it into a bowl of sand, or you can actually take it and put it out into your dish too, whatever works well for you. So I'm going to take it over here to my dish. And just place it in there so we can keep burning. Okay, so now that all of the energies are activated, what I would do if I was doing this with another person, because now you have activated the 4 elements inside of these tools, is you would have the person take their tool that they're activating, and I want you to do the same thing. So you want to take whatever you're activating tonight and hold it, and you want to hold it in your non-writing hand. I'm right-handed, so I'm holding it in my left hand. If you're left-handed, I want you to hold it in your right hand, okay? And I want you to put your writing hand over it. And take a deep breath. And the words here can be your own. This is where you, as a ceremonialist, as a crystal healer, can come up with your own invocations and your own activations. But for me, the message simply is I activate this tool to cleanse, clear, and purify my body, mind, spirit, and space. I activate this tool to cleanse, clear, and purify my body, mind, and space. And then we just say, Amen, Aho, and so it is. Use your breath across to charge it. And have the person or you really connect with this piece, like feel it anew for the first time. Look at the different markings on it. Is there something that you notice now that you didn't notice before, or some kind of, I don't know, really bring your full attention to it. This is your tool now. This will be the tool that I use to cleanse, to clear, and to activate the release of energy from my mind, my body, my spirit, and my sacred space. And that is a full body clearing and a full activation of, I think, the best clearing, cleansing, filtering, purifying, EMF blocking, antibacterial, antimicrobial, antiviral gemstone tool that you can work with. Isn't that cool? You feel the fire? Are your hands black? My hands didn't turn black. Depends on what you got. If you got a big natural piece of shungite, you might have some black paws tonight. My tray isn't doing that to my hands so far. It's perfect for Ash Wednesday. And we could talk about ash ceremonies too, if you want to. Ash is so important to me. I'm sure I've told you this before. Zoe now helps me with ash. So in my smudging dish over there, we just did this last week. I keep a jar of ash in my apothecary because ash can be used for anointing, ash can be used for consecrating, ash can be used for releasing energy. And then whatever doesn't stay in my jar goes out to fertilize my plants, because ash has all kinds of micronutrients in it that are really good for your plants too. So don't throw your ash away. It's very, very special. Oh, you have an unpolished sphere? That's why you got black hands. I love it. Okay. I tend to use polished shungite in my water. I haven't put the elite shungite into my water, so I personally can't speak to that, but there might be people here who love putting the elite into their water and using that for filtration. So if you guys have had experiences with elite, we'd love to hear it too. Let's see. Oh my goodness, I think that concludes all of my teaching for tonight, which gives us a great opportunity now to open this up for dialogue and questions and answers, and to see what's on your mind so I can respond to you. No, you got to look through your collection. Teresa was saying she can't buy tools right now, so she's going back through her collection. And I would say, if you don't have a small piece of shungite, that might be something to consider getting. And you can find a small piece of shungite for a couple of dollars at some point when you decide you want to add tools to your collection. Do you know what I mean? And for now, that's why I gave you all the alternatives, because Teresa, I bet you've got obsidian. I bet you have Tibetan. You know what I mean? Like, if you've been collecting crystals for a while, I bet you've got some of these. And I want you to go back and rediscover them, because shungite is kind of the ultimate, and I've taught you tonight the whole history of shungite, so you know. But you've got other options there too. And obsidian's great, jet's great, black kyanite's great, selenite's great. Yeah, so use what you have. And yes, put your tumbled in your water, your polished in your water. Save your ash. You like the elite in the water? That's good to know too. Yeah, so I'm going to show you really quickly what we have at SG, because we do have 20% off for you. This is not to pressure you to shop, because honestly, you can get shungite in a lot of different places. So if you price compare and you find a better price or something you love better somewhere else, I'm okay with that too, obviously. We have spheres with the flower of life that you may or may not have seen yesterday. We have these made because the flower of life is what I see when I do ayahuasca. So it's my favorite of the sacred symbols. We have some generators for you. These are all in your class tools section, and Alexis will link to that section for you, because that you can find them all in one place. We also put our bundles in there, and we have these pocket pieces of shungite for you if you'd like one of those. We have some tumbled pieces of selenite. Tumbled selenite's great for cleansing and clearing, and it's super affordable. I think these are like $2. So if you want something like that, but don't forget your code. I think your code is, Alexis will post it for you. I think it's 20magic is your code for 20% off. Isn't that cool? I know we're out of shungite bracelets right now, but we are working on getting those back for you. I'm glad you enjoyed tonight too. Oh, we have shungite rings, I should tell you. That's the only other thing that you might want to think about, is having a shungite ring. And these are elite shungite that we have, so they look kind of like that. But we don't have a lot of those. These are the adjustable rings, so Alexis will help you find all of that. Yeah, so the little plates, these little pieces are definitely water safe. This, I will tell you, I've been bathing with. Hope that doesn't gross you out. I've been bathing with this since I brought it home. Because I take salt baths every night. And that's the other thing. It doesn't have to just be crystals. I take a Dead Sea salt and Epsom salt bath every single day to cleanse and clear and purify energy. And I just sit the plate in my bathtub and get in there and get out and clean it off. And so Elite Shungite, it's a great question from Crystal. So Elite Shungite is, and I have to tell you, I'm bummed because I didn't keep a piece. I don't own any Elite Shungite. Can you believe it? We had it in the gem sale last night, so I taught the whole history of it then. And sometimes you guys may want to come to my live gem sales, even if you're not shopping, because I teach you a lot. It's every other Tuesday from 3 to 6:30 p.m. Pacific time on YouTube. So we did it last night, so the next one's going to be 2 weeks. But I had Elite Shungite last night, and I didn't keep a piece to show you, and I don't have a piece here to show you. But the higher the level of carbon in your Shungite, the shinier and the higher quality it is. And so Elite Shungite is expensive because it's the highest proportion of carbon of any Shungite that you can find. This one is not well sized for me, but you can kind of see what it looks like. Yeah, so they're fun for learning. Even if you don't shop, bring a notebook, because you're gonna learn. I usually teach the metaphysical properties of like 20 or 30 stones in those sales, and we'll make sure that you have the link to all those sales too. Yeah, well, just, don't shop. So I do Dead Sea salt. I get it on Amazon. I buy it in the 20-gallon, the big drum of Dead Sea salt. Although we're going to start carrying it at Sage Goddess before too long, so I think we're going to find a different source, because so far we've never had Dead Sea salts at SG. We've only had, sort of the traditional Himalayan salt, and we've had some Epsom salt blends, but Dead Sea salt is really good, especially if you have any kind of skin sensitivity. And everybody in my house has some kind of eczema. So I do a lot of really healing baths for the kids for their skin with Dead Sea salts. And you can find those on Amazon. And so you put some Dead Sea salts in your bath, and you put, your Shungite plate in there, and it's amazing what it does, because again, antibacterial, antimicrobial, antioxidant. So it's going to help with crepiness of your skin. It's going to tighten up your skin. It's going to relax and soften your muscles. It's going to soothe skin irritation. It's an absolute healer and a real game changer. So I don't have any Dead Sea salt for you, but that's something you can find on Amazon, or you can find it at Walmart, and it's a great product. It's really good for your skin, and you'll get hooked on having salt baths. Okay, let me go back through your questions more carefully now. Yeah, always bring your notebook to classes. So Brady, for eczema, try the Dead Sea salts. Seriously, they're really, really good. And then you want to get yourself a really good moisturizer too. And there's lots that are made just for eczema. But the most success that I've had has been colloidal oatmeal with some Dead Sea salts for eczema and any kind of skin irritation. And I really hope it helps you, because I know how difficult it is to have skin issues. I know. It does help. I know. I miss the Himalayan salt soap too. That was a good one. We haven't made that in a long time. I know. So you did like tonight's class format? I know some of you were saying it was kind of dry at the beginning, but I think you came around. I liked it because, it helps me stay focused here rather than trying to figure out what the questions are and be all over the place. But I am really open to your feedback, though. The one thing as a teacher is you have to be reflective, because not all students learn the same way. And I will tell you something. I'm never going to teach a class that everybody loves. Not going to happen. Could even be 90% of people love it, 10% of people will not. So I know I can't please everybody, but my goal is to please the majority. And I'm always willing to adapt my style and my approach to make sure that the majority are learning well. So that's very important to me. Does it need to be charged? It does not need to be charged. Charging, you have to know, charging is just the process of adding an additional layer of energy to the work that you do. It's not required. You don't have to do it. If something's not charged, doesn't mean it's not working. It just gives it a little extra. It's like a turbo boost. Because intention matters. Intention, you have to, and remember this, Intention tells the energy where to go. Energy always is. You can't create energy and you can't destroy it. Energy exists around you and around me all the time. But your intention tells it where to go and what to do. So that's what charging is. It's telling this tool, this is what you're for. This is what we're going to do with you. This is when I'm going to work with you and ally with you. This is what I am hoping you'll bring to me, and this is what I'm hoping you'll receive from me. That's what charging is. It's a program. It's a direction. But energy exists whether you direct it and program it or not. Yeah. I'm glad you guys like it. Ooh, Ruth has a Pratovsky Shungite bracelet. I want to see that. Post a picture for us. I would like to see it. You can always cleanse your crystals. You know, I don't think you have to over cleanse it. But I'm also not somebody who's a super clean fanatic about things. And the reason is I had Crohn's disease when I was very young. I was diagnosed when I was 18. And I had a fantastic gastroenterologist. And you know what he told me? He told me that we would not have as much autoimmune disease on our planet right now if people didn't use their hand sanitizer every 10 minutes and use alcohol on everything. We have over sanitized our environment. And so we've actually created these kind of super bugs that are really hard to kill. And so I'm not a super clean person. Like, I don't scrub things and I don't scrub myself. You know what I mean? I mean, we're clean in our family, but we're not like hypoallergenic. And I'll never forget, my doctor actually told me, he's like, you know what, Athena, if I could, I would give all of my patients a little capsule full of dirt and have them take it. But he's like, my patients wouldn't take it because they're all the hand sanitizer-y, like super clean people, and yet they're sick. So I share that with you just because I'll never forget my gastroenterologist, who at the time was 70 years old and been practicing, you know, since I was a kid. And he was like, you know, your kids have to play in dirt. You've got to get dirty. Like, you can't just scrub everything down all the time. That's why we're sick. Yeah. So I use rubbing alcohol sometimes to cleanse things, but I really try to use salt and water and what I know our ancestors had in the early days so that I'm not introducing additional challenges into, you know, I just don't do that. My kids, you know, I try to make sure they wash their hands every day. That's about it. Salt baths are so good. How long do you keep, Tracy Eschleman, how long do you keep shungite in water for its benefit? I don't know that there's a timestamp on that, Tracy. It's a great question. It's the same question that I get about, like, how long do you leave your crystals in salt if you're trying to cleanse and purify them? Well, is it 2 minutes or 20 minutes or 3 hours, you know? And like, how do you know? I think it's instantaneous. Some people leave the shungite in their water all the time. Some people, you know, touch the shungite to the water and remove it, right? Is one person doing a better job than the other? I don't know. Tastes the same to me. So shungite is itself cleaning. In my experience, I have not experienced shungite to hold much energy. So I use it much the same way I use selenite and black kyanite, which is I use it to clear, but I don't clear it. I haven't had the need to clear shungite. And I have a piece of shungite that I always wear when I go to the gem shows to Tucson and Denver, because it's just so much energy, you know what I mean? And it's just like 24/7 energy. And I've never cleared those pieces that I wear there because I've just never felt it. And I've checked it with my pendulum. You know, you can use your pendulum for clearing, right? Well, poop. I don't have mine here. I put it in the other room. You can use your necklace. So you can ask, is this item clear? And it'll tell you. Does this piece of shungite, has it accumulated too much energy? Do I need to clear it? That's why your pendulum is such an important tool, because it'll give you all the insight that you need. Thanks, you guys. I really appreciate it. Can there be something like being too clear or too cleansed from Siren of the Void? And how would that feel? I don't know. I don't know if I've ever been too cleansed or cleared. I will tell you that clearing is partly process and it's partly intention. I give my spirit guides permission to clear any and all frequencies in my field as needed. Which literally, I've seen my spirit guides pick people up and take them away and drop them somewhere to cleanse the energy field. So if you don't like the idea of handing over control like that, don't do it. But I do it because I've just learned my spirit guides are very accurate. Like, I'll meet somebody new and I'll think, this is a fun person. Maybe we could be friends. And all of a sudden, 2 weeks later, that person gets like, boop, and like dropped somewhere else. And it's like, I guess not. But I completely trust the universe. And then there's people who've been in my life for, I'm going to be 48 in August. Who've been in my life my whole life. And I just know they'll be here forever. And, nothing happens. But then someone new will come along and the universe will be like, boop, boop. I'm just like, okay, that wasn't, I call it vibing off. The resonance is not there. Should you soak it for 3 days prior to using it or soaking it in your water for drinking? I don't know that would help you, soaking it for 3 days. I mean, unless you have a specific reason for doing that, I don't know that I would necessarily feel like you have to over cleanse it or over purify it before you put it in your drinking water. But if it makes you feel better, you can put it in some really hot water. You can cleanse it with some rubbing alcohol, isopropyl, something really pure, and then use it. If you want to make sure it's really, really clean. How would you use a shungite generator? Great question. What's a generator? Generators are usually six-sided. This one is. And that's because most generators are made of quartz, which is a hexagonal mineral. This is not a hexagonal mineral. This is not a mineral. It's a metalloid, mineraloid. But it's been formed into a generator shape, so they did a traditional six-pointed. So the way generators work is they're flat on the bottom, they're pointed on the top, and they create a vortex of energy. So they gather energy from the base, they move that energy through the line up to the tip. The energy leaves the generator, circles back through the base, and so what they do is they create a little fountain of energy. So what I found is crystal people in my life collect either spheres or generators. They're either sphere people or they're generator people. And I'm actually really serious about this. Sphere people love spheres because spheres radiate energy in all directions. North, south, east, west, 360 degrees, everywhere in your field. But it's a dispersion. It is not a concentrated energy line. Generators create a really tight little vortex of energy. This is going throughout your whole home or space. This isn't. This is a little tight little fountain of energy. If you want something at your desk that's just for you, that's a really tight focused energy, generator. If you want something in your home where your kids are going to feel it, your animals are going to feel it, your partner's going to feel it, your weird neighbor is going to feel it, then you want a sphere. These are two different people, two different needs, two different ideas, right? So I tend to be, I like both, but I tend to be, when I'm trying to disperse energy, I like dispersion because I like a wide radius of the frequency in my home. So I tend to be a sphere person. If I'm bringing rose quartz home, I want everybody to feel it. I don't just want me to feel it here in my altar, but I want everybody in the house to feel unconditional love. I want everybody in the house to feel harmony. I want everybody in the house to experience cleansing and clearing. And so I'm more likely to bring a sphere into my space as opposed to a generator, unless there's some specific work that I'm doing. Like today we had astrophyllite generators, right? Or arvedzenite. With arvedzenite, it's a manifestation mineral. I'm not trying to get the whole house to manifest. I'm manifesting, right? So I like a nice arvedzenite generator because that's a tight little vortex of energy for me. It's a great question. And yes, pyramids, that's right, Siren of the Void, you're so smart. Pyramids, seriously, you guys are so wise. I feel like half the time you're answering your own questions. Pyramids are between a sphere and a generator, right? Remember the pyramids, the magic of a pyramid, and I don't have one to show you, which sucks, but anyway, the magic of a pyramid is it's not a hexagon on the bottom, as above, so below. It's a cube on the bottom, which is balance, foundation, right? Number 4. And then on the top, it's not a hexagon like a generator, it's a pyramid. It's the triangle, right? So anyway, there's a different energy. Pyramids create a more solid foundation, and they have some dispersion. It's not complete dispersion like a sphere, but it's going to be in between your generator and your sphere, so that you have a sort of a midline point of what the dispersion looks like. And so if you want something that's kind of in between, where you're going to get it, but the rest of the people are going to get it too, but it's not too wide, but it's not too tight, then a pyramid becomes a great midway point. The bend, that's exactly right. And that's really why the Egyptians were working with it. The Egyptians loved the pyramid, and they loved the obelisk. And the obelisk, remember, is a four-sided generator with the pyramid on top. So the Egyptians knew how to split the baby and kind of come up with the best of both worlds, right? Pregnancy, I don't know. And I will tell you, when I was pregnant, I did nothing. I used very little anything when I was pregnant. I was one of those pregnant ladies who was overcautious. Mostly with my first pregnancy. With my second, I was like, he turned out okay. I mean, that's what most people do with their second pregnancy. I was still very cautious. Like, no alcohol, no blue cheese, no shrimp, I was a very cautious young mom. But I did work with some oils that I knew would help to remove or reduce the likelihood of stretch marks. But other than that, I was very careful. Because, it's 9 months. So it's like, wait to do your water and your elixirs and everything until you have your baby. That's what I would say. I do leave my shungite in while I drink it. And I put my apple cider vinegar in there. Oh, I love that, Cass. And I thought there was supposed to be an obelisk near me, but it's supposed to be a giant cigar. I love that so much. Well, hearts are good too, Paula, right? Because hearts literally represent the heart center, the heart chakra, your fourth chakra, right? Which is the center of your entire energy body. So hearts are really good at sort of like, hearts are to me, the inhale and the exhale, right? The actual heartbeat and the releasing of the energy in a really sort of measured, paced, but consistent way. The heartbeat is what the heart shape represents. So I like the idea of the shungite hearts for that too. You can drink it all day long. I tend not to heat my shungite water. Although sometimes I use my shungite water to make tea, but I don't keep the shungite in it while I heat it. But you may have people in the feed who've done that and they really, really like it. So can you put it in drinks other than water? I put it in my tea, and I put it in my kombucha. I'm trying not to drink anything other than tea, water, and kombucha right now. I hired a nutritionist who taught me that juice is the absolute devil. So I probably won't be drinking juice anymore after meeting with her. It was really an eye-opening experience because I've been juicing for a long time, and she was like, Athena, no more juicing for you. It's really bad. You got to have your fiber, your menopausal. But I agree with you. I like all the shapes too. Does black kyanite clear crystals when you touch them to them, or do the crystals need to be on them? It's just a touching. So I'm going to leave you with this because I know we're over time, and I promised I wasn't going to go over time. I'm trying baby steps to me being concise, and I think I did great tonight for, trying something new. But I do want to show you this. So black kyanite. I know tonight's about shungite, but this is a different mineral, and it's a great mineral for cleansing. I didn't really understand crystals until ayahuasca. I'm going to leave you with this, okay? Yeah, juice is real bad. I know. I did start late, but we're at 2 hours now, so I don't want to go too far over, Lorian. I know. I'm trying to mind people's time. And by the way, if you do feel the need to sign off for now, I will say good night and thank you so much for being here. You don't have to stay for the whole time. You can regulate that too. No, I know. I started late. That's why I went the additional. We're at 6:12, so we're exactly 2 hours right now. So if you want to sign off, you are totally free to go. But I'm going to share one more little piece for you. Okay. When I started doing ayahuasca, which was the first time technically was like 6 years ago now. Five years ago now. It's crazy. My intention, some of you remember this story. My intention was, I asked ayahuasca to show me how crystals work. Can you imagine? I was pretty brave. I look back on it now and I'm like, should I have asked that? Like, that's kind of scary or intimidating, right? So I brought a basket of crystals with me to that journey. Brooklyn was with me then too. And she knew what my intention was. And so at the beginning of the journey, and thank you so much for being here. Good night, Joan. Thank you for being here. My intention was to understand how crystals work. And so at the beginning of that journey, and ayahuasca is a tea. And I don't recommend it for everybody. I really don't. And I haven't done it in a year and a half because of COVID. But anyway, at some point I'll go back to her. She showed me how crystals work. And so at the beginning of the journey, the whole ceiling of the room that I was in opened. Brooklyn saw it too. So imagine being in the room that you're in now and look up at the ceiling and imagine that whole ceiling leaving. And in its place was this breathing, vibrating flower of life. Where's my sphere so I can show you? Was that. So I knew I was on a wild ride. And I will tell you, I was awake and I was aware as much as I'm awake and aware with you right now. When this was happening, I looked over at Brooklyn and I said, "Do you see that?" And she looked at me and she goes, "I do." And I said, I looked up and I said, is it purple for you?" And she goes, "It is. It's purple." Like literally I was like, "Wait, you see that, right? Like look up. Do you see it?" So anyway, the long story short is I looked down at the crystals that I had brought. And I looked at each one, and inside of the crystals were the flower of life. I picked those crystals with a lot of care, okay? And I looked down, and this one had a flower of life, and this one had a flower of life. She was on ayahuasca too. We were wide awake, guys, for 12 hours. Talking to each other going, "Do you see that?" "I do. Is it purple for you?" "Holy shit, is it blue now?" "Oh my God, it's changing colors." Okay. So I did experiments the whole night. So I was like, I'm going to take this candle, or this stone, and I'm going to take this stone. These both have the flower of life, and I'm going to touch them to each other. The flower of life in this one and the flower of life in that one merged. They became one. And they shifted. And then when I pulled them apart, the flower of life in this one was different. And the flower of life in that one was different. So I was like, because you know me, I'm like a scientist, right? I want to try it. So then I put one down and I looked at my finger. And my finger had the flower of life all around it, okay? So then, then I took my finger, and I took the flower of life of my finger, and she's watching. I mean, we're doing this together, right? And we went like this. And the flower of life of my finger and the flower of life of this crystal merged and created one. And then when I pulled them apart, my flower of life was different, and this flower of life was different again. They shifted. So I'm sure you can imagine I spent pretty much like the next few hours doing this. Like, let me try it with this crystal. Let me try it with my foot. Let me try it with my arm. Let me try it with, with my jewelry. Let me try it. And so if you want to know why I believe in crystals, If you want to know why I think it matters who you get your crystals from, if you want to know why I think it matters what people's intentions are, it's because when I touch your crystals, the flower of life shifts. When you touch it, it shifts. When that person who's shipping it to you from China touches it, it shifts. When the person shipping it to you from Madagascar touches it, it shifts. When it goes through UPS, it shifts. When it goes through USPS, it shifts. When it touches another crystal, it shifts. And so when people say, well, what's clearing and why does clearing matter? I'm leaving you with this tonight because this is why I teach. I teach because I've seen this. And I didn't see it when I was in some ridiculous altered state. I was as lucid and focused in that moment as I am with you right now. I was literally sitting there going, holy shit. And then I was like, holy shit. And then, holy shit. Watching the energy fields mix. When you touch someone, when you kiss someone, when you put your saliva on something, when you merge with it, your energy field and the other energy field connect, and then they're both changed. And so this is why you need to cleanse, clear, and purify, or not. I have a cloth that Daisy Foss gave me from Amma in India, okay? And this will be my last thing for tonight. And I love it because Amma's super magic. If you don't know who Amma is, look up AMMA. She's a healer. She hugs and she touches, and she's just this amazing woman from India, and she's got incredible energy. So when I was sick and Zoe was sick, Daisy gave me a cloth from Amma. I've never cleansed it or cleared it. I want Amma's frequency on that cloth. If I were to cleanse, clear, if I was to put shungite in there, if I was to smudge it and clear it and put all the things, I would shift that frequency. I barely touch that cloth because I don't want to change the frequency on that cloth. I want the pure essence of her vibration, so I don't touch it. In fact, nobody touches it. I've got it in a little box, okay? So only cleanse and clear when you want to remove energy or shift energy and recognize what you're doing. Start to take responsibility for it and be educated about it. And if you've got something where you have something where it's from Amma or somebody that really matters to you and you don't want that energy being shifted, don't touch it. Don't lick it. Don't blow on it. Your breath, I blew my breath and I could see the flower of life. Your breath has it. Your saliva has it. Your sexual fluids have it. Your skin has it. It all has it. So the more you touch and connect, and this is how we bond with people or don't bond with people, right? Like, this is why I'm teaching you everything tonight. Magic is real. And so when you see me sometimes and you're like, this woman's been doing this for 10 years and she's like obsessed, right? Like every day I'm talking about crystals and I think about crystals, and even when I'm not talking about crystals, I'm playing with crystals. And like, why? Why am I obsessed? Because it's real. I've seen it. As clear as day. For the rest of my days on this planet, that my life has never been the same. Because I know it's real. I've seen it with my own eyes. We just can't see it because we're in third dimension. So enjoy. Thank you for being here tonight. I honor you. Feedback is so welcome. And just know I'm constantly trying to make this program everything you need it to be. I want it to be affordable and exciting and multidimensional and interesting and all those things. So I do my best. Please keep giving the feedback, and we'll keep doing our best to address your needs in every way that we can. Thank you, Alexis, for being here. Thank you all for being here. I'm going to look forward to seeing you soon. Have a great rest of your week, everybody. And I'll see you next week for session 3 of our journey in Soul Shift. The work continues. I'm glad you liked it. I'll see you soon. Have a good night.